Okay, today we're gonna build the Benettv2 here in the classroom with the teachers. You're gonna learn a lot today. You're gonna learn how to do some soldering. You're gonna learn how to cut piano wire. You're gonna learn how to center servos. You're gonna learn a lot of little skills today that you may not already know how to do or be familiar with. Anyway, let's get started here. We're gonna build, this is the Benettv2, and we're gonna build this today, so let's get started. First thing we're gonna do here is we're going to grab two wings, opposite sides, so a left side and a right side. Once we get those wings, first thing we're gonna do is pop out. This is the vertical stabilizer and the rudder. This is the elevator, or the horizontal stabilizer and the elevator. So we're gonna pop those out, set those aside. Next thing we're gonna pop out is just this little side panel here. If they don't come out, just grab a knife. They have little tabs that hold them in place. Just free them up and they'll pop out. Free that out, pops right up. So there we got our side panel. Set that aside. This little one is a spar, and there's several spars here in the kit. Those spars are gonna go inside the wing to give the wing some structure. And then we have the wing itself here. Now you notice on the panel here, there's a side that has these cuts around it, and then the other side that has cuts that don't go all the way through. What I want you to look at right now is I want you to have it so that a side with just the outline cuts is laying face up on the table. Before I pop out that wing though, we'll just pop out the last two spars that are down here. We'll take those spars. So you're gonna have several spars. We'll set those aside. And then we're gonna pop out our wing. Now this is the important part because sometimes this gets messed up. Again, we've got the side with the, you see there's a bunch of cuts here. Those cuts do not go through the foam board. We're gonna lay that down so that the side with just the outline is face up. We'll go through with our knife and just free those up. Just like that. And like that, our wing pops out. Now, something you can do, this scrap foam board, is don't necessarily trash it right away, because if you screw something up, or another thing we can do is use parts for squeegees, but if you screw something up, you can cut extra parts and pieces from here. So what I like to do is just cut some scrap pieces here, and we're gonna use these for squeegees later when we spread glue. So you notice I just cut just a couple of random pieces here, and I'll set those aside to use as squeegees. This part I won't quite toss, but I'm gonna get it out of my way. So we've got one side of our wing. This is going to be the aircraft left side of the wing. Now we're gonna pop out the other piece, the other foam board. And again, we had enough material, so we gave you two elevators, or two horizontal stabilizers and two vertical stabilizers in the kit. Again, just set those aside. Those are just extra if you need them. Again, we've got another side panel here. That side panel is just extra. Free it up. Just dig a knife in there to break the attach points. And that'll pop right out. We'll set that aside. And again, that's just extra. We've got a couple more spars in here. We'll just go through and free those up. Now those will pop right out. Again, if you damage anything or do anything wrong, there's a bunch of ways to fix it. So don't worry about damaging any of the parts or pieces. Again, the important thing, we've got our side that's got a whole bunch of lines here. We're gonna make sure that that's face down, and we're only gonna cut the outline of the wing just to free it up. And you can see those little attach points that hold it in place. And the foam here, pop it out. Just like that. Get this piece out of our way. Now we've got a couple of spars down here. We'll pop those spars out. Just like that. Free it up. Like that. Throw these pieces away, but those are our two more spars. I'll just set those aside. So right now we've got our two wing halves here. So now we're going to remove a couple of pieces here. We're going to remove these little squares. They're right here. Just pop those out. Again, you can save these for squeegees. And we're gonna pop out this little piece right here. Save those as squeegees. One more thing we're gonna pop out. We're gonna pop out these holes. That's where our servos are gonna go. Set those aside. Okay, next. There is, right here, you'll notice we have a line here, we have a line here, we have a line here. Then we have this right here. We are going to remove just this strip right here. I'll go ahead and put an X on it for y'all so you see what I'm talking about. We're only going to remove this strip. What we're trying not to do is tear the paper on the other side. So I'll show you how we're gonna do that. First, I'm just gonna bend the foam board just to free up the cuts that are there. Lay it flat on a table and use your fingers to just bend it and get it to free up. Do the same thing on the other side. Just use your fingers and you see how you can get it to crease for you? And now you can bend it something like this, and here's that little strip you need to remove. Now I'm just gonna take it and pull just gently, and this will pop right out. So now we have exactly what we want. We have this opened up, and the paper is still attached here. Okay, so we've got this piece removed. I'm just gonna set that aside. Now, what we're gonna take our bamboo skewer, and we're gonna take the blunt end of that skewer, and we're gonna dig that into these seams, just like this. Really gonna open those seams up. We're pressing hard, and just what that does is that crushes the foam and allows us to bend the wing so that we get some camber on the wing. we're gonna do the same thing to our aileron here. I'm gonna crease that, crease it again. Now, I want a little bit more bend than just this. So the way to get more bend, take your fingers, put them underneath the aileron, just like this, holding the foam board flat. Now, put a little pressure, like you're bending this, and run the skewer through that seam. And you notice each time you run it through, you're gonna get more bend out of that control surface. And that's more than enough. So now we can bend down and we can bend up. All right, time to put some marks here. So we're gonna fold this over like this. And the next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab a pencil and we're just gonna trace where this hole, this square hole, goes through. The reason why that's important is later when we put our servos in, this is where the servo's gonna go, and it's gonna go through like that. You'll see later. So, I've got that traced, and this wing is all set and ready to be joined up to the other wing. We're gonna repeat that same process on this wing. So I'm just gonna tweak the wing a little bit just to get this to open up. I'm gonna lay this flat on the table. And again, just run your finger through there while bending it. And you notice I can get it to break free. Just like that. Fold it over. And then just really carefully pull very lightly. And it pops right out. So now we've got that piece removed. Let's go on and open up our wing here. Again, we're going to run that skewer right through, run the skewer right through. Our aileron, we'll do it a couple times. 1, 2, flip this around. Remember, I'm gonna put my fingers underneath and kind of tweak this, run the skewer through so we can get some more throw out of that aileron. And that's absolutely perfect right there. We've got our 2 wing halves here. I'm gonna flip this over, just like this. And now, we're gonna grab some tape. Make sure this is lined up. This is where you can use another teacher that's sitting next to you or a buddy to help you do this. Somebody hold the wing down while somebody else puts the tape on, just so it doesn't move on you. And you notice I let the tape overhang here. That's fine. Grab another piece. If you're good enough to do this all on one piece of tape, you can do that. So now I let that overhang there too. We flip this over. So we're going to do our first hot glue joint here. So I'm going to take the nose of the hot glue gun, embed it into the seam, and just put some hot glue into the seam there. Now remember before I told you we had our leftover little pieces that we could use as squeegees? So we're going to get to use our first squeegee. Make it look all nice and pretty. Just like that. Now that excess tape, I'm going to pull it over. Just like that. Just like that. Okay. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to put our spars in place here. Oh, before we do that, remember we marked this end? We're going to mark this end too. So that we know where our servo is going to sit. So you should have both areas marked. I'm going to grab. These are the two narrow spars. Those narrow spars are going to go right here at the leading edge of this piece, just like that. So to glue those in place, grab your hot glue gun, put a bead of glue on here. Don't need much, just one little bead. Put our spar on there just like this. Make sure it's lined up pretty decently. Hold it in place, just like that. You notice I'm only doing one at a time. I'm not trying to do them both at the same time. Just like that. Let's go on and do this one. Put that in place. Just like that. Okay. Okay, the rest of your spars. You should have 6 more spars. 2 of these are going to go right here in the middle, in between the 2 servos, and then the other 2 are just going to go outboard of that. Just like that. So what I'm going to do first, there's a couple ways you could do this. You could glue this one in place first, and then stack this one on top of it, or you can do what I'm going to do here. Put a little bead of glue on here, and then stack this one on top, and then hold it for a second. You got a little bit of glue coming out there. I'm just gonna clean it up. Just hold it for a second. And this one, again, one more little bead of glue here. Let's flip that over. And what I'm trying to do here is put it right in the middle. Right in the middle here. And if you can see what I'm talking about in the middle, notice here's the seam here, here's the seam here. I left a little bit of space here, and I left a little bit of space here, so that this spar is roughly right in the middle. Let's do the same thing with these pieces. Bead of glue. And another bead of glue. And then I'm just going to come over here, again, right in the middle. Give ourselves a little bit of room there where our servo is going to go. Just hold it there for a second, let the glue cure. Do that with the next spar. So these spars give the wing some strength. That's the purpose of these. This one's going to get glued right here. And again, we want it right in the middle. Notice I'm leaving a little bit of room right here and a little bit of room right here. I'm not positioning it here and I'm not positioning it here. I'm positioning it so it's roughly right in the middle. Take and add some glue here. Flip this over. Again, put it right in the middle. Give yourself a little bit of room there. And you notice where I left room for the servo to go right there. That's all you need to do. Okay, that's done. Fold this over and you notice our wing is starting to take shape here. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add our servos. So in your package, you have 3 servos. We're gonna take one of those packages, we're gonna open it up, and you'll notice inside your package you have a servo. Just gonna open that up like this. And then you have some little parts and pieces. We'll open that up, and if you got a little bowl or something in front of you there, we'll dump our parts and pieces in there. Now, let me go through what some of these parts and pieces are. So, out of these, this little circular one, we don't need that one. We're gonna trash that. This long one, we don't need that one. We're gonna trash it. This one that looks like an X or a cross, we don't need that one. What we do need is we do need this one, this servo arm. You'll also notice there's 3 wood screws. The wood screws all have the points on them and are silver. These little black screws are machine screws and they do not have a point on them. So let's go through how we're going to put these together here. Put these out of the way for right now. Okay, you can pause the video. Okay, so we got our servo here. And in your package, you're going to have these little servo mounts. So what we're going to do, you can slide that servo mount in just like that. And then in your package, you've got 3 wood screws that come with that package. You're going to take 2 of those wood screws and we're going to secure the mount to the wood screws, or secure the mount with the wood screws, I guess I should say. So there you have it, your mount is secured. Let's go back to our wing. We're going to push the wire through here just like that. And then this is where our servo is going to sit. Just like, oops, maybe 180 around, just like that. It really doesn't matter. It could go either way. It could go like that, or it could go like this. It does not matter one bit. So we're going to go like that. We're going to take our wire here, bring it through like that. And then just so that we don't lose it, just use a small piece of tape to just kind of hold this in place so we don't lose it, so it doesn't fall back in there. So now, where this servo goes, we're going to take our glue gun. We're just going to put a little bit of glue right around the edge there. Doesn't need to be a lot, just enough to keep it from going anywhere. and push that into place and just hold it there for a second. Now, that little arm that I was talking about, oh, see, this is why we have this little section there, so that the servo can sit down in there. So that's why we cut that out. Okay, so now we're going to take our servo arm, put it in place just like this, grab our little machine screw, and just put that in there. And we're going till it's just finger tight. All we need, just finger tight. Doesn't have to be cinched down. So now we got our first servo installed. We're gonna go ahead and do that again. We're gonna open up another servo box. Again, you've got your servo. And then you got your package here of parts and pieces. Open that up, dump it out. And again, we're gonna get rid of the round one, the cross, and this long piece. We don't need them. Get rid of our garbage here. So we've got our control horn and our screws. Okay, so we're ready to install this servo into the mount. So yeah, we'll take that mount, put a wood screw through the hole, secure the mount. Oh, didn't even go through the hole. Back it up. There we go. Do the same thing on the other side. And just like we did the other one, we're gonna put the servo in this way. And again, it would be no problem if we put it in that way. But since we put this one in that way, we'll match it. So, pull our wire through here, bring it through this end like that. And again, just take a little piece of tape just to hold the servo there, the servo wire, so we don't lose it. And then make sure the fit's good. And that's nice. So, take and put a little bit of glue. Again, we don't need a lot, just enough to hold it in place. That's it. Take our mount, push our mount through there. Got a little glue over there, so I'll just take and squeegee that just like that so it looks nice. And then pull our wire all the way through. And now you can see our wing is gonna sit real nice. We'll put that servo arm on this one. And we'll just put it on here like this. And these don't always line up perfectly. You notice this one is just slightly crooked. They never are truly 90 degrees because it has to do with the gearing in here. So just whatever's closest is fine. And then I'll put the screw in there to hold that arm on there. Don't forget to do this. And again, I'm just screwing it so that it's tight. While we're here, we can do this if we need to. I have a little tiny 1mm drill bit. These servo arms, sometimes the holes are a little small. So you can take on the very end hole, you can just drill that out. I'll do the same thing on the other side. Just drill that out, and you can even do the second hole if you want to, just in case you use it in the future. It's already drilled out. And these little drills are available. We have a couple of them here for the teacher PD. Okay, it's time to fold this wing over just like this. So in order to do this, I'm gonna flip this around so it's easier. I'm gonna put glue on this edge right here. When I put the glue on this edge, I want it to be right up at the edge like this. That's where I want the glue to go. I don't want the glue back here because when we fold this over, we want it to, you'll see where it makes the contact is at the back end, not at the front end. So you notice that's where we want our glue, right here at the front edge. All right, let's get ready. Let's glue this up. It's good when you're doing this. This is a big glue part here. So make sure you have enough glue stick. You don't want to run out halfway in the gluing process and have to put a new glue stick in there. So anyway, let's go ahead and glue this up. Notice right at the trailing edge or as close as possible to that leading edge. If you feel like you missed a little bit, just go ahead and add some. Then just one little quick squirt right across here real quick, just a little bit. Now let's fold this over and then lay your arms like this all the way across to help make real nice contact there. And just hold it down. Let that dry for a minute. I think that's looking good. So now you see we have a wing. All right, next we are going to install our control horns and these clevises. These are called a clevis. So those clevises come with these little screws. What makes it easier to use these is if you take the clevis and you put in the screw. And that's all you want is just a couple of turns just to get the screw started in there. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Just enough to get it started, just like that. Okay, set these aside. Control horns. I'm gonna these little holes right here. I'm just gonna pop the control horn in there, and then on the back side, put the cap back on it, and squeeze these tight, just like that. I'll do the same thing on the other side. Horn in there. Squeeze it tight, and that isn't going to go anywhere. Okay, in your kits, you're going to have two pieces of piano wire just like this. We're only going to use one of them right now. So we'll have that ready to go. First thing we're going to do before we do anything with the piano wire, we're going to put this clevis on. And I want the screw to face outside. That way, if when we're in the park or in the field flying and we need to access this to change the location of or change the length of the piano wire, we have access to the screw. I'm just going to put it in the very top hole here, just like this, and squeeze it. If it doesn't squeeze shut, we'll grab a little pliers here and just squeeze it shut, just like that. What we're going to do next, to make sure that that doesn't come apart, we'll take a zip tie, one of the small ones, and just put the zip tie on there, just so that doesn't come apart. Grab one of the clippers that we have here at the classroom and just cut that. Okay, now we're on to installing our first piano wire. We're going to take, you notice there's a Z bend here. We're going to put that through that first hole and just wiggle it in there till it goes in. It'll go in, and then once it goes through, bend it over like that. Now, obviously this is too long. We're going to cut this piano wire. Do not cut the piano wire with a clipper. A clipper, this metal is soft here. This is meant for cutting wood, cutting plastic. It's not meant for cutting metal. A scissors is not meant for cutting this, and neither is a wire cutter like this. This wire cutter is meant for cutting copper or silver stranded wire. It's not meant for cutting this piano wire. This piano wire is steel. What you can use to cut the piano wire is one of these hardened cutters. We got a bolt cutter here, and we also have, this is also a wire cutter, but it's a hardened wire cutter for cutting this piano wire. You might want to get a buddy or somebody, another teacher, to help you. You want to hold this piece so the aileron is flush. You don't want the aileron like this, and you don't want it like that. You want the aileron flush. Then we're just going to eyeball here. We want this piano wire to land somewhere inside the clevis. So we wouldn't cut the piano wire here, that would be too long. We wouldn't cut the piano wire here, it would be too short. We're going to cut it right there. So I kind of marked it with the tip of my screwdriver. Now I'm just going to cut it. Always better to cut a little long than too short, because we can always fix it if you cut too long. Now we'll put this in here, and then we're going to tighten the screw down. Again, you might need to teach the teacher next to you to help you. We want to try to keep the aileron nice and flush here while we tighten this down. And this is a Phillips screwdriver I'm using here. And just tighten it down. And now that's tight. Let's go on to the other side. This is where you get to learn how to use a Z-bender. That same wire that you just cut, we're going to use the Z-bender on it now. Put the wire in the Z-bender just like this. Squeeze it, and you end up with a Z-bend. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to put the clevis on this one. So let's back up. Put the clevis on, just like we did the other side. Squeeze that. grab our zip tie here, put it over that, and just pull it tight. And that's all that's for, is just to keep that from coming open on us, so it doesn't come open on us in flight. Grab my clipper, just give that a cutting. Okay, so we've already bent our wire here, and again, it's too long, so we're going to cut that. This time I'll use a bolt cutter. Again, it might help if you have a teacher to hold the aileron flush for you. I've been doing this for years, so I can kind of hold it there. Now I'm just going to eyeball where I want the cut. I want that cut. I want to cut this right about here. Just going to mark it with my finger, and then cut it. Put that in there just like that. And again, holding your aileron flush will tighten the screw. Now, next thing we're going to do is make sure that our servos are centered. Get rid of these two pieces of tape here. I don't need those anymore. Okay, we're going to make sure our servos are centered. Your servo wire has 3 wires here. It has a black, which is your negative, your red is your positive, the yellow is your signal. Sometimes this yellow wire is white. If you notice here on your servo tester, you have a negative, a positive, and an S. That stands for signal. So when we plug this in, we're going to plug it in so that the wires correspond with each output. So you notice I have negative, positive, and signal. I'm going to turn my little tester on here. The tester has 3 positions. It has, I'll start right here. This is a full function test, where you see it's running the servo back and forth. The next one is the rheostat here. I can control the servo with the rheostat. Now, to make sure my servo is centered, I'm going to click it so that this light, this middle light here is illuminated. My servo is now centered. But you notice the aileron here is up in the air. We don't want that. The way we're going to fix that is I'm just going to take my screwdriver, unscrew the arm, I'm going to pop the arm off, and then I'm just going to move it, rotate it, so that my control surface is flush. Just like that. I'm going to do that again on this side. So I'll turn this off, unplug it, plug it in here. Again, negative, positive, and signal. Turn this on. Go through our different positions. I'm switching the positions by pushing this button here. So again, you notice this servo, it was not centered. So I'm going to take the screw, unscrew it, take my arm and then rotate it until everything is flush again. Then I'm going to take my screw, put it back on there. Just tight. That's how we center a servo. Now we have a finished wing. Well, one more thing. In your packet, we've got a bunch of popsicle sticks. We have colored popsicle sticks, and then we have some uncolored popsicle sticks. Your choice, whatever you want to use. I think I'm going to go with a red and a blue, maybe. Like that, like that. Take my glue gun, just put a little bit of hot glue on the back side of the popsicle stick. And then just gonna put this right at the leading edge, about right in the center there. Doesn't have to be exact. And this does two things. Later when we put rubber bands over this is gonna protect the leading edge. And this also acts like another spar to help reinforce the wing a little bit. Do the same thing with this popsicle stick. A little bit of glue on there. Put it right there. Just hold it a second, let it dry. And again, that's going to protect for when we put our rubber bands through there a little bit later. Let's see, do I have, yeah, I can show you. So those popsicle sticks help protect the wing from the rubber bands digging into the foam board. Next, we're going to put together our fuselage. This little foam core piece here, you can just pop out. You may need to take a knife and just go around where the tabs are that hold it in place. Something you can do with this if you want in the future, you can use this piece as a side panel if you want. You don't have to. We have these pieces that we're going to use as side panels, but you could easily take your knife and cut your side panel like this, and now you have that exact same piece. So just something you could do if you wanted to use the foam for any reason as your side panel here, or we're going to use this as our side panel. Either one you could use, or if you wanted to reinforce it for some reason, you could do that too. Just like that, and then pop that in there. Let's see, maybe today, no, I won't do that for this video. I'll just use this piece. Okay, the next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna get the fuselage built here. I already took out the foam section, but this is gonna get installed in here just like that. So before we do that, we're gonna pop out the little battery strap section here. I'm also going to take and cut this back end off like that. And right here on the top part of this, we're going to just make a little section here, kind of like this, a little V. That's so that we can pass the aileron servo wire through here. So I'm just going to take and cut that like that. Now, put this in place here. Just like that, nice and flush. Now we'll grab our hot glue gun. We're going to do this a little bit at a time. Start wherever you want. You can start at the front or the back. Make sure it's nice and flush. And notice I'm going to take my hands and I'm going to squeeze this shut. I'm going to take some hot glue and go right over the seam. My squeegee. And just squeegee the glue. Don't go over it too many times because you just end up making a mess. I'm still squeezing this together. I'm going to flip this around just so it's easier for me to do. Do a little squeegee and squeegee the glue. Squeegee the glue. One more little section here. Squeegee that glue. And then just hold it. Let it dry for a minute or two. Okay, so our glue is good and cured here. We're going to set this aside right now. We're going to grab our vertical and our horizontal stabilizer here. Let's start with the vertical stabilizer. You notice it has a seam here. That is if we are going to use a rudder on this airplane. We are not going to use a rudder, so we're just going to grab a piece of tape like this. And we're going to put the piece of tape over that. That's just to keep that rudder from, or that seam from opening up on accident on us in flight. So just like that, so that it doesn't open up on us. Our elevator. We're going to pop that little notch out right there. And then our elevator has a seam here. We're going to break that open just like that. And just like we did earlier with the ailerons, we're going to use a skewer to go through here. Just like that. And you notice I'm just torquing this a little bit just so that I can open that more and more each time. So now we've got some nice throw here. What we're going to do, we're just going to make sure everything lines up good. Put this in here, and you notice our elevator is able to move freely up. Now, we're going to glue this together, but before we glue it together, grab one of your servo boxes, or you can also grab one of the square pieces that was part of the foam board. What we're going to do, we're going to take a little bit of glue, right there, and a little bit right here. Notice I did not glue this elevator closed. I didn't put any glue over the elevator. Oh, and the side that we want up is we want the side, or let's put it this way, the side down, you want this side to be the down side. So just like that. Now let's put this on here. Now, I'm going to take my box and hold it so it's 90 degrees like that. You can use the box, or we can use this little, and that's all I'm doing is I'm just using this to keep this vertical stabilizer 90 degrees to the horizontal stabilizer. I'm just going to hold that like that for a minute, let it cure. Then if you want, you can take your glue gun, put a little bead of glue there, take your squeegee, I put a little bit too much, and just kind of work that in there, flip that around, do the same thing on the other side. Take my little squeegee here, just Just make it look nice. And again, make sure, keep it 90 degrees. Notice I did not put any glue to impinge the elevator from moving, nor did I glue the stabilizer to that elevator. So now our tail's done. Our tail, we're gonna set it aside, let it cure. The next part we're gonna move on to here is installing the servo. So we're gonna pop this little foam piece out of here. That popped out real nice. If it didn't pop out, you could just use a pliers to dig in there and just pull it out. So this is where we're gonna install our next servo. Again, open up your box, grab all your pieces, empty it out. You got your servo, and then you got all your parts and pieces, and we'll discard all the same ones that we did earlier. The only one that we're going to keep is just this one servo arm. Okay, let's go ahead and install the servo mount into the servo. So we're going to put that on there just like that. Take a wood screw, put it in there, grab my screwdriver, just like that. Now let's mount our servo. So the servo is going to go through here just like this, all the way through the hole. Just like that. And then that's how the servo is going to go. So we can take our glue, put a little bit of glue in there, a little bit of glue right there. You don't need much, just enough to hold it in place. Push it down. If you want to make it look nice and pretty, grab a squeegee and just squeegee it. I'm gonna go around the other side here. This is why we created that hole, so that we can get our wire through here. I like to make this look nice. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take my knife and I'm just gonna make a little channel here for that wire to go through. Just like that. And then that little slot that you made, and embed the wire into that little slice. Where's that little slice? There it is. It's hard to see in this foam. And you can use your wood dowel here to push that in place. And that looks really nice. If you want, you can take some glue and just go over that. Grab a little squeegee piece and just go over it like that. Push our wire through here. And now we've got our elevator servo installed. Just like we did earlier, we're going to put our control horn on there. Control horn is going to go just like that. the screw in there. And notice the control horn is 90 degrees up. Again, I'll take my drill and just drill out that hole so that our piano wire slides through there nicely. And I think we're all set for the tail now. With the tail, we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to grab our control horn, and you notice the control horn has these holes. We're going to take, well, let me back up here. We're going to get that screw started. Right like this. And the way we want this to look when we're all done is we want that to look like this with this screw on the outside. And notice that the holes for the control horn are pretty close to the hinge line of the elevator. So that's where we want to install that. So backing up here, I'm going to put my clevis together. Grab another little zip tie here. Put the zip tie on there. Pull that tight. And then we'll clip it. Just like we did earlier. Now, the elevator doesn't have a mark. You'll notice it has a mark here, but the mark is actually on the wrong side. So what we're gonna do, and some of the kits don't even have the mark. All you're gonna do, put your thumb down, and then just put a little hole about thumb distance away. You're going to take your control horn next, and you want to install it so that these holes are roughly lined up with the hinge seam there. So here what I'll do to make that easier to see is I'm going to put a line. I just drew a line on the hinge seam. We want these holes to be lined up with that hinge as close as possible. It doesn't matter if it's back here a little bit or a little bit too far forward. Just right here. And then just push that through this foam board. It goes through real easy so that you end up looking like that. Next, grab that cap. Put the cap on there and just push it down in place. Squeeze it. If it's a little hard on your fingers, you can always grab one of our little pliers here and crimp it down with the pliers just like that. And you want this to be relatively straight. You don't want it to be off at an angle at all, but you want it to be relatively straight, just like that. Okay, next we're gonna put this on the airplane so we end up looking something like that. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put it so that it's reasonably in the center here. And then I'm gonna just hold it in place and make sure that the elevator doesn't hit the bottom of the fuselage here. The fuselage doesn't impede it at all, and it's fine. So now we're gonna glue this in place. Just a couple little dots of glue here. 1, 2, 3, 4 dots of glue. Don't need a whole lot. I'm gonna glue that on just like that. Hold it in place for just a second. Now, the toothpicks that you have, we're gonna use these toothpicks like nails. And I'm just gonna push the toothpick through like that. And then clip. Hold this end because it'll go firing. I'm gonna put another one through there, and if it's a little hard on the fingers, just use the back side of the clipper. So those act like nails. Oh, that one popped through a little bit. Take care of that by just doing that. Okay, so we've got 2 toothpick nails installed there. Now we're gonna install just 2 toothpick nails on this side. You notice I'm going at an angle, I'm not going straight down. And then we'll clip it right at the top. And then one more, just like that. That didn't come through. Okay, next, put our piano wire through that hole, bend it over. And again, this is just like when we did the ailerons. We don't want to cut it too short. We don't want to cut it too long. So as you can see, we want to cut it so that it lands like right about there. So I just take my bolt cutters here, eyeball it up, give that a clip in. Put it through there. And again, we want to make sure that the elevator is nice and flush. I'm going to hold this with my fingers. Screw that down so that it tightens the piano wire. Just like that. Okay, next you can grab 2, and let's see, we'll grab a blue and a green zip tie. Okay, what we want to do here, we're going to install a blue and a green zip tie, and we want to keep this wire from flexing around like that. So the way we're going to do that, we're going to take zip tie and pull this really tight so that I just have a little tiny hole like that, and then I'm going to glue that right here. Grab a hot glue gun, and put the zip tie right there. You might want to have your bamboo skewer handy so you can embed that in there. Now we'll clip it. Do the same thing on the other side. Right about there. Bead of hot glue there. And just embed it with our barbecue skewer. Clip it. And if you want, you can go over the top just a little bit. Just to lock it in place. So there we have our elevator, horizontal stabilizer, and vertical stabilizer installed, and our rudder installed. Okay, so picking up where we left off here yesterday, we've got our servo installed here for our elevator. We've got our the zip ties glued in there to constrain the piano wire from flexing too much. So let's go ahead and check our servo. So just like yesterday, we've got the negative, positive, and signal. And then we got negative, positive, and signal. We're going to plug that into our servo tester just like that. Turn on the servo tester. And right now we're in the rheostat mode. So we want to put it into, that's the test mode. And right now we want to put it into the centering. So if you look here, we're at our mechanically centered position for the servo, and you notice our servo, this one just happened to be centered. So we don't have to remove the control horn and make any adjustments. So this one is just fine. Turn that off. All right, let's move on. Next, that fuselage is all set. So we're gonna move on to the motor. These are really nice motors. These are Sunny Sky 2204 2300 kV motors. You're gonna open up your box and you're gonna find a motor inside there with a bunch of little screws. Okay, we got our motor here. This is where you're going to learn to do some soldering today. We need to solder these little bullet connectors onto our motor wires here. So you're going to work with the instructors, but they're all going to have, we've got several soldering stations set up. You're just going to take the bullet, put it into the wood just like that. Grab our solder here, and you're just going to take and heat this up, and we can put our solder inside there. You're just filling up that little tub, and then we're just going to put our servo wire inside there, and you notice it all melted up really nice, and then just release the heat and just kind of hold it nice and straight for a second. And there we've got a really nice solder. Do that again. Heat it up for a second. Put the solder inside that little hole. And we're going to take our wire, pop it into the hole while everything's nice and hot. Let that solidify. Keep the wire nice and straight. There we go. Do the next one. This one's a little bit different bullet connector. Let's see, how do I want to do this one? I'll do this one. I think I can do it in here too. So we'll heat that up. Get a little bit of solder in there. And we'll take our wire, Put our wire in there. Let the heat do its thing. Oh, I pulled that one out a little bit too early, so I'll reheat it up. Let that solidify. Need to get more solder in there. Let that cool down a second. And there we go. So we've got our 3 bullets. And we're gonna put some heat shrink over this. Just like that. Let me get my heat gun. And we wanna shrink this. If you notice the bullet connector here has a shaft on it. We want our heat shrink just to cover that shaft, just like that. I'm going to apply some heat, and the heat shrink's going to shrink down our connection there. Do that with our other 2 bullets here. And you notice here I got a little bit of solder on the outside of the bullet, which is preventing the heat shrink from going into place. So I'm just going to take and melt that off a little bit. Yeah, this one still doesn't want to go. So if that happens, we'll just cut a little bit bigger piece of heat shrink. It's no big deal. There, I cut a little bit bigger piece of heat shrink. Slide that on there. And then again, we'll apply some heat. Do our next bullet here. So now we've got all 3 of our wires connected to these little bullet connectors. When you're all done and they're cool to touch, just make sure they spin freely when you're done. If they don't spin freely, it can cause problems. So just make sure that they spin nice and freely, and all 3 of these spin nice. Okay, next we've got our speed controller here in the package. Just gonna open up your speed controller here. Pop it out. This is your speed controller. This is what controls the speed of the engine in response to our throttle stick. So you notice it has 3 bullet connectors on here, and those are just going to attach to our motor here. So we've got this. I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to grab my motor mount and 2 of those screws that came in your motor package. And we're going to put these together. So when you slide the motor mount slides on just like this. So we want the wires to come out this side ideally. We could have it come out this side, but ideally we'll have it come out this side. So I'm going to mount. Notice this is the top side of the mount. And I want the wires to come out this side, so the wires are over here. So that's how this should be. Just like that, with the wires coming out at the 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock position there. I'm gonna take my screws now, take one at a time, obviously. And you can preload your screw into the hex driver. I'm going to push the screw through that little hole. I'm just going to hold the motor in place, and I'm going to just tighten it down so it's just finger tight, not real tight, because we still want to have some of the availability of the motor to move around a little bit so we can line up that bottom hole. Again, take our screw, line it up with that hole, and then now we can go tight. I'm going to go tight there, and go tight there. Now, normally we would have put a little bit of Loctite. We would have put a little bit of Loctite on these threads here. This is Loctite. This is the medium lock. I would suggest don't use the red. The red is the ultimate lock. But anyway, normally we would put thread locker on here. But because of this motor mount design here, when we sandwich the motor into the spot here, the screws are now physically sandwiched in place by the foam. So we will not need thread locker on this. So now we can go ahead, put our motor in place, just line it up, push it through, so that's about centered on here, right like that. I'm gonna grab my knife and I'm gonna make a cut right here in the fuselage. And open that up a little bit just so I can see it. I'm going to take my speed controller, and it doesn't matter how you connect this right now. I'm just going to put each bullet in there. Sometimes they're a little bit tighter fitting than others. Just force it on there. Okay, we're going to take our wire one at a time here. I find my little crack there. There it is, I think, right there. So hard to see on this foam. Let's see, where's that opening at? There it is, right there. I'm trying to do this so you can see it. Just push that wire in place. Once you find the opening, it's easier. And you just tuck it in there with your skewer. And we'll take another wire. Just push that in there too. And do the third wire. Just like that. The reason why we're doing this is if we leave these wires just dangling out the side, when we put the prop on here, we run the chance of cutting that wire with the prop. So if these wires are embedded in here, we're not going to be able to cut them with the prop. And what you can do, take your hot glue, put a little bit of hot glue over the opening, and then grab one of your little excess pieces and squeegee that glue right into place, and that'll seal it up real nice. Okay, what we're going to do next here, we are going to mount the ESC like right here. We're going to grab some Velcro, our hook and loop Velcro that's in our kit, and just cut a little chunk of that off, just about that big. Now the way I like to do this is I leave the Velcroed to itself. I'll take some hot glue here, And it doesn't matter which one you use or which side you use. And I'm going to put that on the back side of the speed controller. And just hold it there for a second, let that set up. And what we're going to do, you got a couple of choices here. You can hot glue that like that. Some people like to hot glue it to the back side here like that. It doesn't matter at all. It's just personal preference where you want to glue it. For the video today, I will glue it flat like that, right to here. Like I said, you could mount it on the back panel if you wanted. We'll grab our hot glue gun. Put some glue on that other side and just go ahead and hold that in place. It's your receiver. And your receiver has this is a little 4-channel Spectrum receiver. I really enjoy these receivers. They've just worked perfectly for us. These are antennaless receivers. These came out a couple of years ago from Spectrum. But anyway, you've got 4 channels here. Channel 1, always think of your receiver as going from the front to the back of the airplane. Channel 1 is going to go to our speed controller. That's going to control how fast our prop goes. So normally in most airplanes, the propeller is on the front of the airplane. This one's a little different because it's a pusher configuration and the propeller and the motor are at mid fuselage. But anyway, this is still where we're going to plug in our speed controller. Number 2 is going to be our aileron control. Number 3 is going to be our elevator. And number 4 is going to be our rudder if we had a rudder. These take 12 volt input and put out 5 volt to each one of these rails. So if you wanted to light up LED lights or something, you can borrow power from one of these available rails to power LED lights or some video cameras for FPV. So anyway, let's go on to getting this set up. Again, we'll take the Velcro that you have and just cut a little piece. Doesn't have to be anything huge. And we're gonna put the soft side. I'm gonna put the soft side onto the back of the receiver just like this. Just take a little bit of glue, put it on the back side of the receiver here. And then we're going to put our soft side on there just like that. We'll put that aside for a second. Let the glue cure. This is our Y harness. We're going to install this here in just a minute. This Y harness is going to take our aileron servos and combine that into one channel to plug into our speed controller. What we can do next is install the battery strap. This prevents our battery from falling out. So the battery strap, it just takes some thinking about how you want to install it in there. It's going to slide right through that little hole in the bottom like this, and it's going to come like this and then go over the top just like that. That's how you're going to install your battery strap, just like that. Okay, my receiver glue is dried, so I'm going to take the other half off of there. So this is the plastic half. Take a little bit of glue here, and now we're going to install this. I like to put that on the back side of the panel there. Just mush it around a little bit, and then that's where our receiver is going to mount when we get to that point. Okay, next we're going to install our propeller, and just pick your favorite color propeller. Put Put the propeller on there. Oh, let me explain this. The way the propeller goes is you'll notice there's numbers here on the front of the propeller. There's no numbers on the back side of the propeller. You want those numbers to go facing forward. So those numbers now are on the front side of the propeller, not on the back side. Then we're going to take this little nut, put the nut on here, and just tighten it down. This is an 8mm nut driver, and then you just go till it's tight. Your instructor is going to look this over before we go out to the field and fly, so they'll make sure that that prop is on there nice and tight. All right, I think we're to the point of installing the wings on here. You're going to grab 4 rubber bands from your kit. I'm going to grab the wing, and the wing is going to sit on here just like this. So to get the wing to sit on there, grab your skewer, and you're going to count. For the setup that we do with the battery that we're going to be using today, you're going to count 1 hole, 2, 3, 4. Push the skewer through. And just leave it hanging out maybe an inch or so. Then on the other side, clip it so that you have about an inch, 3/4 of an inch is fine. Now, we're going to go from the back side here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, the same thing. We're just going to leave it 3/4 of an inch. Really no wrong answer at the end of the day. This is how we're going to mount our wing to the fuselage here. Grab one of your rubber bands. I like to start at the back. And we're going to wrap this around to the front, just like that, crisscross. Do the other side. Have your wing as centered as possible as you can. Now you might have to slide your wing around a little bit just to get it centered. Even if it's not perfectly centered, it is going to fly absolutely fine. But you notice now these popsicle sticks prevent the rubber bands from digging into the foam. So our wing is installed. Now we're going to go on to installing our Y harness. And follow me through here. We're going to push our Y harness through that little hole that we made in our panel. It's going to pop out the other end. And let me situate this so the camera can see. You notice our wires are color coded. We have brown, red, and yellow. Just make sure when you put these together that the colors go to each other. Brown goes to brown, red goes to red, yellow goes to yellow. Something you can do to prevent those from coming apart is you can take your hot glue and just put a little dab of hot glue on here just to keep it from coming apart. So I'll work on this side now while that's drying. And let's see if I can get this better for the camera here. Here's the other end of our harness. We're going to take our other aileron servo wire and connect it to the harness just like this. Again, matching colors up. Yellow to yellow, red to red, brown to brown. And again, just take a little dab. Hot glue, and that keeps our harness from coming apart on us. All right, let's let that cure for a minute. Okay, so we're back to our airplane here. That's all I did was just tuck our servo wire in the side there. On this side here, this servo wire is going to our elevator. We've got our aileron and we've got our speed control wire. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna flip the airplane upside down just so it's easier for you to see how we're gonna do this. So the first wire I'm gonna hook up is our speed control wire, and your instructor tomorrow will help you hook this up. But anyway, on these receivers, the black wire always goes at the bottom or down. So just like that. The next one I'm gonna install is our aileron. That's gonna go in number 2. And then the next one after that is gonna be our elevator. I'm gonna put that right into number 3 there. And your instructor, like I said, will help you install this. Then I'm gonna push the wires in there and just mount our receiver on that little piece of Velcro that we installed. And then if you were to make this really nice, you could do something like take a zip tie and zip tie the wires. You could even cut a little channel here to tuck these wires in place. Not a big deal for what we're doing tomorrow. Now we're going to go ahead and go through the whole process of binding the airplane to the controller. So I've got my controller here. I haven't turned it on yet. Whenever you get your controller, it's still in the off position. Make sure throttle stick is all the way down and all of your switches are full up. You don't want to mess the radio with switches all over the place. Your starting position should always be with your switches all full forward. So to bind this now, and normally we'd have the propeller off for this. I'm going to leave the propeller on, but I'm going to plug in. And now to bind this receiver to my radio, I'm just going to press this button and you notice the light starts blinking. The speed controller is also going to chirp, and it's just telling us that it's looking for a signal. To bind my Spectrum radio, I'm going to hold this button down. This is known as my bind button, and I'm going to turn the radio on.
Binding. DSMX 22 milliseconds. Telemetry. Bind complete.
So we've got a successful bind here. We're going to tuck our battery in here. So I always like to take my battery side, or the wire side, and put that so that it's at the back of the fuselage, kind of like that. And then just tuck that in there. I'm just going to leave it like that for right now. Pull the battery strap over, just like that. And this battery's a little bit thick for this fuselage, but that's fine. Anyway, and then just tuck everything back in there, just like that. Now I'm going to flight control check it. So, right turn, left turn, climb, and descent. So you notice my controls right now, I'm making a right turn. You notice this aileron's down, this aileron's up, so it's going to make a right turn. If I go this way, that's going to be a left turn. If I pull back, that's up elevator. That makes the airplane go into a climb. Pushing it down, that'll make the airplane go into a descent. If any of these controls were reversed at all, we can easily reverse them inside our controller here. I have got this switch here is my throttle kill switch. I would always encourage you to have a throttle kill switch, because if you notice right now I can give this throttle and my motor does not spin up. When I turn the kill switch off, and I give it a little bit of throttle, now you notice the prop works. So I encourage you to set up a throttle kill switch. All the instructors will have a throttle kill switch. I'll go through that real quick here on the radio, how to set that up. Click, scroll down to throttle cut, click it, and then we're just going to scroll over, select that so that we can select the switch for the throttle kill, which I exercise my H switch. And then the way this works, if you scroll down, maybe scroll down to these, the darkened spot on here is when it's darkened out, that means the throttle will not work in that position. If I move this, see that little tick mark went over to the other box, and that box is open in color? That means that's going to be the position where the motor is going to work. So if we wanted to change that, that's all I would do is right there, I've got that first box selected. I can just click with my switch, and notice I can change the color of that box. Just like that. If I wanted to change the color of that box, you just click it, and now both switches, both positions of the switch would be throttle cut, which we don't want. We want it to be just like that. Now, I'm going to test the throttle, and your instructor is going to do this with you tomorrow. My prop is going backwards. It actually wants to go this way. So I'm going to put my throttle cut back on. And the way we fix that, do this so you can see in the camera here. The way we fix that is just take two wires here, any two of these speed control wires, and just reverse them like that. Where'd that other wire go? It's in there somewhere. Trying to do this so you can see in the camera there. Oh, I don't know which one was which, but we'll give it a try. See if I got this right. Let's give it throttle again. Oh, going backwards still. Let's try one more time. Got these two wires. Just reverse them. There we go. Give it some throttle. And now we've got throttle. So our airplane is, for the most part, we're all done, ready to fly. The only thing you guys have left to do here is you can color your airplane with these markers that we're providing. So we have all different colors. Just give them a good shake before you use them, and then you can color up your airplane with these markers however you want. You can use stickers, decals, just have fun with it. We'll have two different types of markers for you to use. Anyway, have fun today with the instructors. Go out, enjoy flying your airplane, and I hope you got a bunch out of this professional development workshop. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the day.